When it gets harder, step up higher. And that is the quote of the day. Welcome back to the Quote of the Day show. I'm your host, Sean Croxton of SeanCroxton.com. Today's featured speaker is JJ Virgin, who is the author of The Virgin Diet and the author of her latest book, The Miracle Mindset, which is a book that had me in my hot tub crying like 6 or 7 times. And then I watched a documentary after that, and I had to cry some more. And I don't really cry very often, but the story is, gosh, it's such a remarkable story. If you haven't heard the story, her son was hit by a driver in a hit and run and had horrific injuries and literally had a 0.25% chance of surviving those injuries. And JJ and her husband and their family, they took those odds, and her son is doing well. And it's just such a remarkable story. And I highly recommend you read her book, The Miracle Mindset. And you can actually watch the documentary, You Are Stronger Than You Think, for free this week. You can go to miraclemindsetmovie.com. And so enjoy today's clip. See you on the other side.
Now, when Grant was at Harbor UCLA, we got to a point where he was not making any real progress. And he actually, has anyone ever seen a straitjacket? Like, I didn't think they actually existed. He was straitjacketed to his bed. I walked in one day and he's straitjacketed to his bed. My brain injured son with straight, because he now is in that unruly stage and they don't know what to do with him, and they don't really have any rehab, but they're trying to keep all of his systems controlled, because when you have a brain injury, his blood pressure was going crazy, he still had all this stuff going on. And they didn't want to transfer him because of the heel with the pin sticking out, but I just figured out that we had to get somewhere else where they could help him. I had a friend over at Children's Hospital, so Children's Hospital, Dr. Craig came over to Harbor and met with Grant and brought him over to Children's Hospital, which was just a huge win for us. And Children's Hospital, we were able to do all sorts of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, which literally started with 5 minutes every 30 minutes. It was like raising a baby again. You stimulate them, then they have to rest. And you stimulate them, and you have to rest. And I would push him more than probably I should, but I knew that we had to do this, that if he was just stagnant, we couldn't fix it. And so often during that time, and I remember this early on when Grant was first diagnosed with bipolar, and I went to a therapist in town, and he was teaching me how to handle Grant. And I go, I don't think I can do this. I'm not strong enough. And he goes, well, you better get strong enough. And, I looked at all of this going on with Grant at Children's, and it's like, I don't wish it was easier, right? And think about this in your business. I always think, lately in the online space, a lot of stuff has gotten difficult, like email deliverability, all sorts of stuff. Well, you know what that does? That just weeds out the weak, right? When it gets harder, step up higher. So, anyone here know Dave Asprey? Bulletproof? Dave is one of my very best friends, and Joe is one of my super best friends, and that's Vishen Lakhiani from Mind Valley. And I get this call from Dave. He goes, JJ, you have to come. I'm doing this thing called 40 Years of Zen, and you have to do it. And it's a week, and you're off of all of your tech, and you're just going to be in doing brain training 12 hours a day, and it's $15,000. I'm thinking, no, and no. Like, no. He didn't tell me then that I also had to quit coffee. Like, he left that piece out. Because I'm thinking, well, at least we'll have good coffee there, Bulletproof. But Dave is one of my very closest friends, and I just intuitively, I went, it was funny because I even had a speaking engagement I had to cancel, but I just was like, I'm supposed to do this. And I just trusted my gut, and I went. And what I didn't know, I knew we were going to do this brain training, and I knew I'd gotten to a point where I was in trouble, and I didn't know what to do about it. Like, when I got called that I'd hit the New York Times bestseller list, I didn't feel a thing. And then my agent said, I think we should do this next book on sugar. And she went and sold a 3-book deal for 7 figures, multiple 7 figures. And I didn't feel a thing. And I'm going through all this stuff and I'm flatlined. And Dave knew it. Now, what I didn't know was I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just went. And it turns out that the way you do this brain training, which is to help raise these alpha waves, is to forgive. And they actually take you through this forgiveness protocol, and the machine can tell if you're lying or not, like if you've really forgiven, right? And so I sat there, and I'm now hearing this all. And I love this because, to me, what you measure, you can improve, but I always like to see things, right? So I'm like, in this machine, I can tell if it's working. This is awesome. But as we're starting to go through this, and there's a whole protocol to figure out who you need to forgive, and ultimately I'm going, first off, I'm thinking we only have a week. But also, the biggest person that I had to forgive was myself. Because believe me, I'd gone back to that night and gone, what if I just let him go to the freaking martial arts class that he wanted to go in the first place, like all that stuff. But the bottom line was I had no joy anymore because forgiveness was smashing it down. So the big thing that I did there was to work through this. And it's something that I have taken home now and I work with all the time, is working on forgiveness. Because as long as you've got that, you're never free. You will have this anger and resentment that build up that just smush all the happiness and joy out of you.